Good morning, everyone. It's 9:04 a.m. on May 14th, Wednesday, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting of the Technical Review Committee to order. Just do a quick roll. Dennis? Present. Matt? Present. Joe Murphy? Present. Jamie Gorman? Here. Mark Comboy? Here. Rich Bourbonnais? And Jamie Rabbit present. We also have staff, Jay Parker and Lynn Smith. So agenda item B is approval of minutes from February 12th and February 19th. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes. If there are any questions or items associated with that, please let me know.
Make that motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Matt. Any discussion on the motion to approve the two sets of meeting minutes? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Joe? Thank you. Motion carries. The next agenda item is C, TRC review. Item number 1, minor subdivision preliminary plan, J. Robbins, minor subdivision. The applicant is proposing a 2-lot conventional minor subdivision of the subject property with associated site improvements proposed for a single-family residential development. Assessor's Plat 76-1, Lot 3 is located at 380 Camp Fuller Road. Jeffrey and Kathy Robbins, applicant owner. Do we have anyone? Please come forward and you can give a brief overview of your project.
That one? Sounds it. Yeah, we've been on Camp Fuller Road for the last 15 years. Absolutely love it. Don't plan on going anywhere. But what I have now are 3 kids that are grown and gone, and I'd like something smaller. I don't want to heat it. I don't want to clean it. So just looking for, just to move over, split that lot, basically in half. It's been a 4 or 5 year process to get to where we are now. I've done, I think, everything I could possibly do, gotten DEM approval, CRMC approval. We've met every requirement that we needed to meet, and like to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Dennis?
I have no concerns.
Matt?
I don't think that I have any concerns, but at the end, if you want to circle back to me, I might have discovered something along the way.
Okay. Joe?
Looks like a good project to me. I don't have any objections.
Mike? Joe?
It looks like a good project. I don't have any objections. I wonder about that retaining wall, which seems to be about 5 feet tall, and it's just boulders placed on top of each other, whether that's sufficient or not. Was that done by an engineer, and is there, as far as that design goes?
That was not. That was just for I had access to there while I was doing a little clearing. I put a boat up there. That's driveway. That will continue to be driveway. There's not going to be a house or anything located anywhere near that retaining wall.
All right. I just have a little concern about the stability of a 5-foot wall made out of boulders. But I will leave that up to staff on the other end of the table. Otherwise, I'm good.
Mr. Gorman?
Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. Frontage, lot area, meets the requirements for the zone. With respect to, I'm assuming this is a walkout.
Correct.
Yeah, so, when it comes time, depending on the type of wall you build, you may need an engineer to seal that.
Correct.
So.
Yep. And there'll be other walls too coming off the north the left north corner and the south left corner to maintain that driveway, so all that could be engineered.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jamie. Mark?
I just have a question concerning the proposed dwelling. Is that going to have a full basement, or is that going to be a slab?
It'll be a walkout, so it will be a slab on grade. There won't be any additional basement below the slab.
Okay, the reason why I was asking that is because you have dry wells that are fairly close to the foundation.
Yeah, those were all, dry wells were engineered.
Okay, well, if we had a basement, you would have to have them further away, that's all. That's what I was getting at, so you're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Rich?
Generally, I have no, I mean, seems pretty straightforward, and it's a pretty modest development. But there was another site, perhaps, and Jay may remember, but perhaps across the street.
Ocean Haven.
Yeah, so for your information, there was
I'm aware of it.
Okay. And there were a series of road improvements that needed to happen as part
Correct.
of that, and they've never happened, and it's never been final. I don't think the subdivision was ever made final, Jay?
No, the subdivision approval actually expired.
Oh, it did? Oh, because they kept coming in, that's right.
It
Now I remember.
expired, and the property owner sold it. It was purchased, and we've not had a subsequent application.
And it was purchased as one large parcel. It was
Correct,
not-
correct.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't suggest that this would require those types of improvements, and I don't know that anybody would. I mean, I think that was pretty extensive on what was being asked at the time. But, all right, then I have no other concerns. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. And I think my question that I had is probably a follow-up from Mr. Bourbonnais, is the status of Camp Fuller Road and the ability to add an additional lot to basically an unimproved road.
You know, so, and I think that's what that other development, but that was, I think, maybe 4 lots?
It was 4.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, now this kind of institutes sort of an incremental change, and at what point does that road need to kind of meet a better standard, a higher standard? There's just a couple areas that are blind, and the hills, and I mean, you don't want to lose that character either. I mean, it's a tough line to walk, but that previous development, yeah, I'm not sure how to, I don't know that you can attach this to that, is what I'm saying. And you end up with an incremental change over time, but how do you avoid that?
I think, and again, as the administrative officer, as this moves through the process, I may seek guidance from legal, because the property across the street all of a sudden tries to subdivide 2 up the street, go to subdivide, and so on and so on and so on. And to Mr. Bourbonnais' point, what is the responsibility as development occurs for upgrades to that road system? So,
It's unfortunate because you're in a position where you're asking for what would be we would consider that a very modest proposal, I would think. It's not that, it's perfectly fine, but you're kind of caught in a spot where, you know, this other thing was happening, so.
Well, and I think that there's also a question of actuality versus potentiality in terms of what could happen 30 years from now versus what could happen now. And since that 20 acres was potentially subdividable, I think there was a list of 8 or 10 road improvement options thrown out there for them. We did not have a Camp Fuller Road Association at that time. We do now. We've had it for the last 8 or 10 years. And we've gone ahead and made probably 8 or 10. I think Jay sent me a list of those 10 things, and I think I checked off 8 of them of what we've done in terms of widening blind corners, taking trees out, putting more, what would you call it, where you widen the road at a certain section to allow cars to pass, things like that. So there have been a decent amount of road improvements since.
Did you work with the land trust in doing that? Were they advised of when you were,
Well, the land trust was heavily involved in that 20 acres, and I don't think we did anything. That would be a question for the past president.
like, was any of the improvements done on their portion of the?
No,
No.
no. That's that narrow section where the stone wall is, and none of the stone walls are, I think those are national something, so we don't touch those. But a lot of clearing, getting rid of blind areas, moving trees, not moving trees, taking trees down.
I'm not a member of the TRC officially, but this project, this kind of represents an interesting convergence of the new changes to state law that have allowed minor subdivisions to be approved administratively by the TRC. Previously, the Ocean Haven subdivision was a 4-lot minor subdivision that was handled by the planning board. Planning board instituted several conditions because they felt that the roadway needed to be improved to support the subdivision. That is no longer the case. Now that responsibility falls on the TRC to make that determination. And for all that don't know, Camp Fuller Road is not a road in a sense. There's a portion of it that is over a land trust property. There's limitations as to how much it can be approved. So while I certainly think that this project should go forward, I think potentially the TRC should recognize the potential issue and maybe make a condition or a finding or something that any subdivision, any future subdivision off of this road, that these applications shall be forwarded to the planning board if we can. Because there's a determination on the roadway that needs to be made, and I'm not sure that TRC is the appropriate body to do that. And I don't think that it's well explained in state law that the authority the planning board had to determine the appropriateness of the roadway is passed down to TRC, and how that is actually, how we use that, how we're guided by that. Because I think it's going to be a difficult situation in the future. I mean, if next person comes in and all of a sudden there's some change in staff members and we say, you know what, that road needs to be improved, and the land trust won't let them improve it, now we're in a stalemate. And where do we go from there? It's not right for somebody else to kind of be the odd man out. I'm not saying anybody would be. I'm just saying it's an unfortunate position that the TRC is in, that we'd have to make that determination, the roadway determination.
And I think Jay's point expands upon my initial comment that as the administrative officer, so TRC's going to make recommendations to the administrative officer. I'm going to make a recommendation today that that's done with guidance from legal counsel on the status of the road, the ability to require an applicant to improve the road, and that's done in consultation with DPS. Because if any development on the road should trigger improvements, it shouldn't just be first person in, next person loses. It's development on the road subsequent to the initial development. You would be the development subsequent, you're the next one in.
Yep.
So it's not, I want to say, layman's term, you get a get out of jail free card on improvements, but the very next person doesn't. I need to get clarification on that from legal, and it's a further conversation with DPS. Because I don't think it's fairness to say that one lot's okay, 2 lots is okay, but the third lot gets hit with improvements, and those improvements may not be capable of being accomplished because of constraints with the land trust and the ability to make improvements. So it's a legal matter. I'll defer to counsel and look for guidance from them as the AO, but I'll have a suggestion in any motion that the TRC makes to incorporate language to that effect. And move forward from there. But unfortunately, to me, it's not just, it's a simple division of land, complicated by the status of the road and condition of the road. The mere division dimensionally is simple, but it becomes complicated based on the status of the roadway.
So what would you be looking for from legal? For them to say that...
Legal may say that you have to improve the road and access to your lot. And then
And
you would
who's
have to
going to
make...
come, and then DPS would come up with those recommendations?
No, you would. You would have
No,
to
the recommendations
improve
are-
it to a standard that DPS would be satisfied with.
Well, the recommendation's already there as part of that previous
Yeah.
submission. I mean, it was very clear on what needed to happen. One of them was the main entrance, and I think that was improved by the movie that
Correct.
came in.
Oh, yeah, no, we
Whereas Moonrise
completely
Kingdom, right.
changed the first, whatever, 80,
Well, I thought it
100
was,
feet.
well, but what is it, was it the movie company that did that?
The moving?
The movie, like, wasn't that?
Oh, no, we had,
Moonrise
we
Kingdom.
may have done it with that money, that I can't recall, but it came in
Regardless-
afterwards.
Regardless, there were very specific requirements, and it's listed out in that previous subdivision. I mean, nothing would change from that. It just helped alleviate some of the restrictions. You may have already done them. You're saying you already did that, so it may be that some of those things are accomplished.
But I think you had mentioned it, we're requiring the same type of renovations to the road for a one lot that we did the four? I mean, we came up with recommendations for a 4-lot subdivision, and now I'm required to fix the road in terms of one?
So again, the question I will discuss further with legal is any development on the road. So again, just understand, so you're not required, but the next person is.
But the next person could come 30 years from now.
Correct, but you're standing before us today asking to develop on a road that may not be capable of carrying any additional development.
Okay, but,
Based on the conditions. So
That's fine.
in consultation with legal and DPS, they may establish a standard that allows you to move forward so long as that standard is met. I don't have that exactly before you today. Mr. Bourbonnais has alluded to some prior discussions and standards that may have been established, and that would be potentially for the next development.
and I guess that's what I'm asking, is that standard,
I don't have an answer for that.
no, that 4-lot subdivision, I think is what you're saying is the standard, is the,
No, I think what we're saying is, so when that 4-lot subdivision was considered, right?
Yep.
We said, okay, you got to do X, Y, and Z,
Correct.
clean it up, and for that subdivision, you were good. We felt that with those improvements, that the road could continue to safely support the additional 4 lots.
yep.
Well, that's gone now. You're coming in, you're doing your 2. If somebody comes in with another 2 or 3, now what? Now it could be a little different.
No, I totally get that. I'm just wondering am I going to be required for, like, where does the list that I'm going to be required to do or whatever, does legal come up with that?
So-
Does DPS come up with that?
So,
Does-
no. So the subdivision regulations have improvement standards, roadway standards.
Yep.
And guidance that says if you are to subdivide it, a street shall be X.
Yeah, same
all of
thing with that they had to do.
That's the analysis that the planning board used to do, saying, okay, well, your street is not that, it's this, you're gonna need a bunch of waivers, we're okay with you granting the waivers and not requiring you to improve the roadway to the standards in the subregs. Now, the discussion, the massaging and all of that comes with Rich and staff and everybody to say, well, okay, the subregs say it needs to be paved, we don't want it to be paved.
Yep.
It needs this, we don't want that. That's where that massaging comes in. But the subregs have the standards in them.
Okay.
And that's what we're trying to navigate is, the subregs say you need to be on a road and it might need to be improved to a certain extent. We're here to say, well, what's that extent? Previous to that, it was the planning board had that authority.
Yep.
In a public hearing setting, well, not necessarily a public hearing setting, but now that's here with us, and this is all brand new to us.
Yeah.
TRC's never had that level of
Yeah.
responsibility before, and it's a heavy lift. So we're looking for guidance and trying to say, all right, in anticipation of further subdivision in the area in the future, what is going to be our approach so we're not blindsided by it?
Okay. So,
And that somebody is not left being the odd man out.
so chronology, what is the next step?
So just moving this forward so we can potentially continue dialogue. It
Yep.
may be in the best interest that this is tabled today to our next meeting. We'll seek additional guidance from legal, DPS, so that some of the answers may be more pertinent with regards to the discussion. Because again, the TRC is the one who gives guidance to the administrative officer on what actions they should take.
Yeah, I guess my point is there anything I can do in the next few weeks and not wait another month for somebody to say, do X, Y, Z? Or is that what I would be looking for a month from now is, okay, Jeff, it's approved or it's not approved if you go and do X, Y, Z?
I think what you would do is allow us to engage in a conversation with legal and DPS internally. We'll continue to communicate, you can continue to communicate
Okay.
with our office.
Yep.
And we'll try and resolve these issues, so there'll be some clarity on the legal engineering access issue prior to
So,
making any movement.
So I think we're all in agreement that this is a pretty modest proposal. I mean, I would suggest that maybe we couldn't move it forward and let it be in the hands of staff to just resolve the access issues with legal, and that way, you know, so we don't, I mean, unless you really,
I only get guidance from TRC, Mr. Bourbonnais.
okay.
Okay?
I would recommend that we go ahead and move it forward, and that way we can resolve these things, because if none of us have an issue with the proposal itself,
I have no issue with
It's a
the
tight-
dimensional requirements. We need to resolve this access issue. Because I can't, how do you sit here a year from now for the next applicant who comes in and says, I want to subdivide my larger tract, and now you're saying you have to improve it, and they say, well, the person before me did it, and so,
that's fine, and I understand, no, I understand incremental change, and I mean, we've had that discussion many times, particularly with traffic. But what I'm suggesting is that if that can be resolved at the staff level, I would suggest that we do that. And if he's not happy with the resolution, I mean, then we're back here and we're figuring out what
we're not
we have
back
to do.
here. It's a decision of the AO, it's a denial, and then that's a significant delay in time.
I just want to say,
All
let's not lose sight of the fact that a 4-lot subdivision was approved with requirements that, let's just say 10 improvements were done, and 8 out of the 10 were done, and this application is coming in now for a 2-lot, which is 2 lots less than that, and the work, or the majority of the work has been done. So if that was okay, if that was dictated by the planning board previously, I think we would be in dangerous territory if we were to go a different route. I'd hate to be the one to say that, but
So how about this, if somebody were to make a motion to continue this, and between now and the June meeting, you could identify those 10 items and then provide a list of what's been done to the board, and then we can get clarification from legal as to, you know, if those 2 remaining items, if you'd be exempt, or if there should be something modified from the original 4-lot.
I have no problem with that, and we could even come up with a plan to, if we feel as though with the, you know, Camp Fuller Road Association and me and everybody else that, you know, let's say there's 2 or 3 outstanding things, we can come up with a definite plan for how those get done, whether it's engineered or,
Do
Yeah.
you know if do you have support from the board?
yeah, there's a letter in
There
there
is.
from the president of the Camp Fuller Road Association.
Okay, that'd be my recommendation.
And I'm one of the ones that works on the road.
Again,
No.
Ms. Robbins, I review, you're the applicant. You could ask us to move this forward, understanding then if things aren't resolved if it moves forward from TRC tonight, still in last night's meeting.
Yep.
If it moves forward this morning from TRC, there'd be a recommendation to the administrative officer. So you completely leave this up to one individual, and that happens to be the planning director, who is me.
Yep.
You would not have another opportunity to discuss the matter with a board, so it's kind of like a final decision.
It wouldn't go to zoning board if you
Does-
deny it or...
does, you know, you can appeal the decision of the AO.
And are you in disagreement with Mr. Bourbonnais versus just making it an
No,
administrative?
that would be
No, I'll
done
tell you,
in
if you-
consultation with legal and DPS, but that would be a final decision.
As opposed to what's the other option?
Come back next month.
Come back next month and try and clarify the points that people are making today. It's understanding time, right?
Yeah.
If a 30-day, moving it forward today, if you don't agree with the decision the AO makes, could cause a further delay.
Yeah, no, I
Down the
totally
road.
understand. As long
Taking
as,
30 days to potentially resolve some, what you're saying are minor issues, that may be minor issues. To Jay Parker's point, if there were 10 items and you feel you've done 8 of them, the 2 remaining items may be moot.
correct.
We
Yeah,
don't know that sitting here this morning. If we find out that they're not moot and the decision comes out, we'll say in a worst-case scenario that you have to upgrade the road to a standard that you don't agree with.
Yep.
That's gonna, you're in all likelihood gonna want to appeal the AO's decision, and that costs you more time.
Yeah,
So,
no,
again,
I'm-
you're the applicant.
I'm totally in agreement with you, as long as in the next 3 to 4 weeks, you and
It's a
I can have a
conversation.
conversation,
Absolutely.
Rich and I can have a, whatever, we can all be on the same page so that when we get to another month, that we've had conversations. It's not just, I'm coming and guessing on what happened over the next 4 weeks.
I would say this, if it was tabled to next month and that discussion occurs, when you stand before us 30 days, plus or minus 30 days from now, the decision would be potentially recommendation for AO approval with
Yeah.
the following condition, that he removes 2 trees,
Correct.
widens out a turnout,
Yeah.
and it's more specific.
Yeah,
And
that's no
you
brainer.
know
That's
where-
fine. I'm
where
fine
you're
with it
going.
continuing it until next month.
Okay.
As long as our conversations continue.
Yeah, I don't think.
There's no reason to.
Jeff, those, the improvements that were done, I believe this is the improvement plan.
Yes.
Were all 5 of those areas addressed?
I'd have to look at that list that you and I had. I believe there was a written list. 'Cause
Yeah, and I had given all
there's-
this, I had given all this to you before,
Yeah,
right?
there's descriptions of what happens in each area. I'd have to look at it.
Jeff, if you walk away from the podium, we won't pick you up.
We're going to continue it, so I'll address those. Area 1 is the opening. Is Area 5 past my lot? I don't think so. No, Area 5 is the one that was cleared. Yeah, that's where the road turns. Where it says Edward and Jean Swan, that entire corner was cleared, because I think that was, Area 5 was a blind spot because of overgrown. Area 4, the trees were cleared on both sides. I believe there's pictures to confirm, there's pictures in the packet to confirm Area 5, Area 4, Area 3. Area 3 on the, let's just call it the left side, was one of those ones that I said opened up, so we have, was opened up, so there's allows for 2 cars to pass. Yeah, and 2 is in front of Gina's house, that was widened, and basically from the arrow from 2 through 1 was completely redone, widened, new stone walls. So yeah, all those areas have been, that's the new entrance. Yeah, I think I put the pictures in succession. That's where it's widened on the right, that's Area 2. That's where all the trees were cleared, all the branches and limbs were cleared, left and right. As Dennis knows, whenever a fire alarm gets set off at the camp, you guys have to send somebody, sometimes 2 trucks. And years ago, I think they've either improved it or whatnot, but it was on a weekly occurrence. That's that Area 5 that is now, you can see around the entire corner. And that's back. That's Area 3. That's that you can see the rocks in the kind of upper left, that's that new driveway. So from the previous Area 5, I don't know if any improvements were asked for past Area 5, but that's past Area 5.
Right, that area 4, I thought, was where it went up and then,
It's just I think it's just left of that yellow box. That, all the trees, from the stone, there's a stone wall probably, let's call it 8 feet on either side of that.
It's tight.
And there was 8 to 10 inch trees in between the stone wall and the road. Those trees have been entirely cleared.
all right. Well, so why don't we do this, though, Jamie? If we want to continue this, let's continue it, and then maybe let us go out there and just try to see if we can match these plans up with what was requested and what the site is with what was requested, and then that way maybe we resolve this, and by next month, it's just, everything's been done. We'll see.
I think that's potentially a good course of action.
I'm fine with
You
that.
can continue the conversations with our department and DPS.
Absolutely.
You can I don't want to speak for Jamie Gorman, but if you have your building plans ready to go,
Yep.
you could always submit them to the building department in anticipation of subdivision
Perfect.
approval.
That's fine.
We're not here trying to delay, we're just trying
No,
to
no.
dot i's and cross t's.
Yep. And trust me, I'm going to be there for the next however many years, so I don't want 800 no houses there either, so I get it.
And again, you would be able to see as a resident, if the next person had a
I totally
upgrade,
agree.
you've been responsible for any
Yeah.
implications you've made with your development.
Yep. I'm okay with that.
So I think here in the discussion, I'd entertain a motion to table.
I'll make a motion to continue this matter to the June regular meeting, so the applicant can answer some of the questions brought up today regarding the outstanding improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. We have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. Thank you, Joe. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Okay, our next agenda item under C, TRC Review 2, Major Land Development, Combined Conceptual Master and Preliminary Plan, South Kingstown High School. This school redevelopment project proposes to demolish the existing high school and construct a new school with associated site improvements, including athletic fields and amenities. The applicant is requesting a 26-foot height variance, 35-foot maximum allow, 61 proposed from Section 401, Schedule of Dimensional Regulations, located at the intersection of Columbia and School Street, Assessor's Plat 49-4, Lot 14, Plat 57-1, Lot 209, Town of South Kingstown, applicant owner. I believe we have a number of people here to speak with us tonight, this morning. I'm still on last night's meeting. Sorry.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Conte, architect with Studio Jade, and with us is Sam Hemingway, our civil engineer with Garofalo, Brian Morgan, our landscape architect, and Luke Murray, a member of the school building committee. So we're here to answer any questions and go over any issues you have, as well as understand any comments or counsel you could provide us for our preliminary hearing on May 29th. We would appreciate that so that we can have the most productive meetings as possible.
Thank you, Phil. We'll start with Dennis.
Good morning, and again, thank you. So I am just coming into the game late, so I'm still reviewing a lot of these plans. I've yet to go through all of them because they have yet to show up on me as far as being presented to myself. I've already worked through your water calculations and your hydrant locations with your company. I had no issues with that. And as construction progresses, we will address more of the egresses due to the fact that you're building a new building next to an older building that's still in operation. So I have more discussion with you down the road coming. So that's all I have currently. Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, so the height that he's asking for 26 feet of variance. Do you know what the existing height of the current high school is?
No, but I can certainly start to check while we're in this meeting.
I would just be curious to hear what that number is. I mean, it's a three-story building, the existing one, is that right?
The existing building is 3 stories as well. Ours is. The additional height comes from having a communicating stair that goes up to provide roof access through a stairwell as opposed to a ship's ladder or some other less than satisfactory means to get on the roof.
So we're talking about just a small section of the building that would have that 61-foot height.
Correct.
And the majority of the roof, do you know what the average height of the new roof would be?
Give me a second here. I know the floor to floor. 48.
48.
My turn again. So this is going to be just on one section of the school, is that correct? And this is only going to be on one portion of the school? 61 is what you're saying to max height? So is that going to be from grade parking lot access? And how far from the building is it going to be? Because I have to take into consideration, my ladder truck can only reach 100 feet. And I need 5 foot of operational off the top of the tip. So you're looking at 75 max from us to ladder the building in order to get up to it. And will there be a pole-pit at the top of the building that we have to clear? Or is it a flat roof?
So it's a flat roof
Okay.
at all levels. The portion of the building that is extending beyond the 3rd floor ceiling is a stair tower, approximately 8 feet, 10 feet wide by about 24 feet. That rectangle is what extends to the full height. And that is located along the parent drop-off side of the building.
All right, so that's just a stair tower, so that means the rest of the roof line will still be
Lower.
lower?
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question on that side then, and it gives us access with no problem. Okay, thank you.
Just Phil, Jay just looked quick, and on our oblique aerials, we came up with plus or minus 42, 43 feet on the existing height of the building. And again, to the testimony, the majority of the building is 50 feet tall, other than that tower. And I think the intent is you will have 360 access. Joe?
No, I've seen this project several times now. The applicant's been very responsive to the planning board's concerns as a part of the review, combining the review stages. We asked them to meet with the neighboring property owners, which they did, and then they proposed mitigation measures for those concerns. So I'm good.
Mr. Gorman?
Yeah, just a couple of things that came up the other day, looking at the site plan, minor, but just want to bring them up now. The 5 ADA spaces on the School Street side, potentially thinking about adding a sidewalk in between those spaces in School Street, because right now there's no, clear access to that crosswalk. It's just direct to that that driveway or the bus drop-off. So, and then more like a practical question for the positioning of the dumpsters. I didn't know if those that are kind of in the northeast corner are the only dumpster enclosures. I'm just thinking about, if, through the winter, how they'd be, custodians would be, bringing their trash there. Maybe Jay can zoom in just a little bit. Or maybe not.
We do not anticipate any additional dumpsters around the perimeter of the building.
Gotcha.
There will be one identified spot. That's where the custodians and staff will take the refuge.
Okay. So where they're drawn on the plan?
Yes.
Gotcha. And the only, I think, question that came up, and maybe I missed it, was and maybe Gilbane would be involved with this, like a construction phasing and sequencing plan, just so, everyone has an idea how, because it's going to have multiple steps, I'm sure, that in coordination between utilities and, stormwater, power, parking, I think that would just help probably the public and the town.
And we have started those logistics and phasing plans. We were able to present one of them to town council, which would be the initial one. We will continue to develop more technical ones for our internal use as it relates to utility coordination, making sure we're maintaining both buildings simultaneously for a period of time, as well as what does the site look like on the first day of construction when the new building is complete, but the old building has not yet been taken down. What does that look like? And then, of course, the final completion.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jamie. Mark?
Well, I had a few questions concerning the watershed maps, mainly the existing conditions, because I have to compare them between the proposed conditions to make sure that you're not having an increase. However, some of the items within that watershed are unclear. For instance, when I look at the dry well systems, I have no information as far as what those dry wells are, what the capacity is, other than numbers that pop up in the report. I need some sort of a backup to show how those were obtained. Another similar question I had was that western section of the property that abuts, I believe it's School Street. I need time of concentration calculations specifically for that area, because that area is a large field, and I'm looking at the time of concentration. You have a direct input on it, and it was assumed at, I believe, 8 minutes, but that entire field is mostly sheet flow, so I'm expecting to see a much higher time of concentration there, so that would decrease the amount of water coming off of that existing condition, comparing it to proposed conditions. So I need a little bit more information on that. And the last thing I have to say, same as what Jamie had said, I really would need to see some sort of a construction sequence on this, because to build these BMPs, you might displace an existing BMP. So I'm not sure how that's all going to fit in. And lastly, I want to go over, there was one more section I had a question on. On the western side of the existing school, there's a parking lot that drains to the west property line. It appears that there's a BMP that was constructed within there. I don't know if it was a rain garden or a basin or of some sort, but that does drain into a raised catch basin, and it acts to detain water there. And when I traveled further down along, I believe it was Brown Street, I noticed there was quite a bit of erosion coming from the field area. So I'm not sure if there was more watershed from that field that actually drains down there, if you could clarify that for me.
So I might need to get you to rephrase the question, only because you were indicating the west side, and I was thinking of the hazard lot where there was a BMP installed up by there's a monument. So that area is being basically unchanged, so we didn't focus on it real heavily. There was similarly a BMP on the east side over by Brown Street, which is by the student parking lot. I don't know that is not going to be altered with this application. I don't know the
I'm sorry,
specifics of
I
that.
meant to say east side instead of west side when I was referring to that. So
No,
that makes sense.
I gathered that at the end when you mentioned Brown Street. So again, In way of background, there is in fact a BMP over there. We are anticipating a considerable reduction in amount of area. The analysis that we did was based on record plans. There's some evidence, but obviously things that are buried, it's a little difficult. The student parking lot is currently managed by what we believe are small dry wells, so that although they're functional 90% of the time, it's difficult to really know how they function during larger events. So we believe we've arrived at a similar condition. So much larger stormwater management, larger events, there will continue to be runoff. We believe it'll be significantly reduced, but certainly we anticipate water to leave. Actually, it was raised by Rich prior about no water leaving. Small events, we don't anticipate any runoff leaving. I think there's very little leaving now. There's quite a few dry wells on the property and underground systems. During very large events, there will continue to be runoff. That BMP will be modified slightly, but mostly by removal and regrading of the lot to tie to the fields. So the park's being moved to the back. The drainage system, the underlying storm drains will remain unchanged. Some modest grading and ground cover changes will occur, and the runoff, we believe, is decreased.
Right. Well, the reason why I was looking at that was more the existing condition, so that it would be modeled so that I could compare it to the proposed condition.
Understood.
That's all I really need on it.
We are happy. In fact, we got the plans from the town. We're happy to provide you with what we got.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll forward those back to the
Thank
town.
you. That'd be helpful.
Certainly.
I've got a quick question piggybacking off of Mark's comments. The new building is being constructed, and I apologize, this is all probably stuff that has been addressed in previous meetings, but the new building is being constructed while the existing building is still functioning, and then once the new one opens, transition students over. What's the timeline where both buildings will be, I'll rephrase it, what's the timeline for when the amount of pervious coverage is going to be at its max until we start seeing that old building converted back into fields?
Pretty considerable. So, right, it's immediately, the first task is, put foundation and put building slab, right? So before even infrastructure is complete, we'd like to be putting underground building elements. Those are the long lead items. Get steel up, so that the building has a long period. Similarly, it is the desire to keep a functional school property as long as possible, right? We want, as long as the students are there, we would like to maintain the parking field in the back, that is, say, the student parking lot, and we would like to maintain the front field parking, which is primarily the staff, but is also visitors and is integral to the operation of the drop, the parent drop. So, as long as possible, those two conditions will be maintained. Erosion, generally speaking, during that time, the primary concern is erosion and sediment leaving the property and impacting infrastructure, adjacent infrastructure and property owners. That is not to say that we are not cognizant of runoff increases, right? There is going to be a period for which we're going to have an increase in impervious surface for that purpose that, will not be wholly mitigated during extremely large events. We have sediment traps at every low point leaving the property that will provide function. Generally speaking, those are designed towards 1 inch of rainfall. It is also our intent to install and connect during that phase. We have, as Phil mentioned, we've dug a little bit deeper into the sequencing. In fact, we're in the process of making modifications to the utilities for that purpose, which we will continue to work with both the design and construction side, but also the town, DPW, public services, et cetera. So we anticipate during those phases to get the stormwater management, the permanent stormwater management that can be installed, the underground facilities in early, and to tie the new impervious areas to those facilities as early as possible. I think there's an opportunity to do that with temporary drainage connections. So we are pursuing that. We have not done a specific review of that 10-month period, but there certainly is an overlap. There's the three parts, right? There's the new construction of the school coming in, there's we got everything in place, and then there's the finished product. That period of duplication spans all three. It's the first, the second half of the first phase, when you've got new building coming in, you've got the entire middle phase, obviously, where both things are operational, and you've got as long as it takes to tear down the building and reconstruct the new and put in the remaining BMPs. So that period will be 60% of the project construction period. And Phil can talk more about what that duration actually is. I think it's 2 year, 2027, is that what we're talking about? So obviously September is the target. Or August, I guess now anymore.
Clear, and obviously all these things I know that construction can take longer than expected. I'm not asking for a concrete number, but your estimate is that a 2-year overlap? Is that what I heard?
I think the duration of construction is 2 years.
Let me speak to this a little simpler in terms of dates, and then see if this answers your question. In general,
the question is just from a stormwater.
Yeah, no, and I want to walk
before actual groundbreaking has happened, or before significant pervious surfaces have been installed on the existing site. That's not important. Just curious what the amount of time where we're seeing a serious increase in pervious surface before we start removing old
and
infrastructure.
it ties back to the construction start. So let's, for all intent and purpose, we'll say September 25 we're starting. I will probably say within 9 months we will end up having a building that has a roof on it, right? So let's say somewhere between 9 to 12 months, we will be collecting stormwater from the roof that will be going to those practices, the new ones that we can put in place. At that point, we are just going to continue to manage stormwater from our new roof area. So that has increased the impervious. Construction will not be complete to what we expect, let's say, September of 27. At that point, we'll start demolition of the existing building. And we'll start taking down that building, finish the stormwater practices, and restore the fields. That very well could take almost a year. So I'll go back. I believe it would be proper to consider construction starting September of 25. In September of 26, we'll probably have maximum impervious. It will stay that way likely until September of 28, we'll say, when we are totally complete. Obviously, it's sort of ramped up, and then it's going to start ramping down. But there will be a period of time for almost 2 years, probably a year and several months, where we will be at maximum impervious. Does that answer your question? I know it's...
That answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Rich?
I haven't looked at the narrative yet, the drainage narrative. I'm assuming has it been submitted digitally? Is it up on the page or on the...
We have digital submissions and we have full-size
All right,
24
because I didn't
by
get a
36.
paper copy, but what I'll look for, I'll go online. I can look at it digitally. I don't need a paper copy, but I'll check it out. Anyways, we have that same concern. It's just, there's a point where there's going to be excessive runoff. The things I'm going to be concerned about, as long as the erosion control stays in place. I'm much more concerned about the Oak Street side than I am and I've voiced this a number of times, but I'm much more concerned about the Oak Street side than I am the other side. Much of it's a direct discharge to the river. As long as sediments aren't being discharged, that's going to be my bigger concern. Like, I'm not going to want to see silts running into the river. That's a problem. So, but I'm just not sure how to avoid it, frankly. I've seen this on many sites before where you have, even on homes, you have, an existing building they're going to tear down at some point, so it just is a problem. It's a long-term problem, so I'm not quite sure how to handle it, but I'll have more information, I guess, as the project moves forward when I look at the narrative. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich. I think I have just 3 primary areas of concern. To Mr. Gorman's point, making sure that all of the parking is ADA compliant, and that's parking space, path to building. I think you have some spaces that don't have that path orientation to the front door entrances, both on the south side and north side of the building. Again, diving a little bit deeper into routing plans and sequencing, understanding that you'll have a high school that is up and running, potentially with the southern parking lot, the easterly parking lot, but the student parking lot won't be available. There's no other availability of any parking at the existing high school, so we'll say you're 30% parked at opening. What happens to the 70%, and where do they go? And how does that affect traffic patterns, routing plans? So again, addressing that, finalizing landscaping plan, and then just with regards to storm drainage, understanding that within 9 months you have a roof, but probably within 4 months you have a floor. So once you have a floor, you are impervious. And probably within 4 months, your storm drainage needs on the site double. And my primary concern, based on my experience with larger projects, is has Sam evaluated the ultimate outflow? That pipe that ends up taking everything that goes to the Saugatucket. What is the downstream condition there? Because just say an example, it's a 48 inch, and right now it's half full. What happens to that when it's fuller, and are we creating a condition, to Rich's point, that's going to cause an erosion path, that's going to cause sediment transport, and that condition is going to potentially exist Phil, to your point, for, we'll say, plus or minus 2 years. And we'll put a broad range of, could be 3 months short of that or 3 months after that. But that's a condition that if we have one outlet to this entire site, and for 2 years we're running the risk of storm events, I don't want to say overwhelming that, but having an impact on that outflow. Do we understand what those impacts are? And is there a need potentially to look at that outlet and potentially reinforce it so that we don't have a downstream erosion? I mean, I've been involved in some private school projects where that outlet project causes 10-foot deep, 20-foot wide erosion courses for a couple 100 feet, and then you wonder where'd all the material go, and it's somewhere downstream. And it's not a one triaxle load, it is hundreds of triaxle loads of material that are just gone. So again, I think chasing that downstream outlet kind of backwards, understanding that, to Sam's point and Rich and Mark's point, there's a bunch of stuff underground on that site that you may not quite know what the storage capabilities of that is. You're assuming it's some, but still, I'd really look hard at that outlet condition and kind of work backwards from that to understand if we get 2 inches of rain 12 months into the project, what's going to happen at that outflow. We wouldn't want to go to some stream bank on a Saugatucket and get a phone call that there's, a lot of stream bank missing. Because then you're scrambling to repair a condition that may have been avoidable. And I absolutely understand that things that are underground you may not quite understand. I worked on one project where an engineer thought the stormwater connection underground and clay pipe went north, and they were tying all their drainage into the southern end of this project, and lo and behold, it all went south. So he had split his drainage in half, designed the downstream outflow to be half of what it needed to be, and it created a mess and a significant expense that wasn't budgeted for. So if we can kind of get a handle on that. With that being said, I have, I think, 6 items based on the conversation today. I'll just review those if everyone will bear with me for a moment. And then we'll go around and see if there's anything to add to those 6. Item number 1 would just be solidifying the dumpster location and whether there's any need to adjust that location, given its proximity to the loading dock and where maintenance and facilities may be utilizing the area. 2 would be doing your best. I don't want to call it finalizing the construction sequencing, because sometimes the best construction sequence goes awry after the first couple of months of construction, given delivery of material. So we understand you need to be reactive to that phase, but at least starting with a good construction sequencing. And Phil, I know Monday night you went through that with the council, and you're going to continue to work on that. 3rd is maintaining a plan for fire access during construction. So construction sequencing is kind of broken into fire access, parking, school access, routing plans, storm drainage. So there are a number of things that go into that sequencing. The 4th item that I had was finalizing your storm drainage calculations and plans, including sequencing as it relates to both temporary and final BMPs. The 5th item I had was looking at and evaluating outflow conditions for all your storm drainage. And then the 6th is kind of general in nature, and that's parking, ADA paths, landscaping, and then final overall look at the storm drainage. Is there anything that I may have missed or that the committee feels they need to add as this goes through the permitting process? Joe? Jamie? I'm seeing shaking heads, but no comments. So, not hearing any additional discussion on the matter, I would entertain a motion, or would anyone be willing to make a motion to move this forward to the planning board with those 6 recommendations to be vetted through the permitting process? Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jamie Gorman. Any discussion on the motion with those 6 items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And effort to date.
Thank you.
That brings us to D, TRC Advisory Review. I'm not aware of any under our agenda. And our final agenda item is E, adjournment. I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:07. Was that Mark or was it Joe? Mark, did you make that motion to adjourn? Okay.
Rich did.
Rich did? Okay. Motion from Rich, seconded by Jamie. All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned, 10:07. Thank you, everyone.
Guys, before we break up, I do want to have a quick discussion about the OpenGov permitting, that the applications that we've started to intake. So for those of you, you guys should probably have seen the